The goal of Trump and Republican leaders is to pull off a giant redistribution of over $1 trillion from the middle class, working class, and poor to the rich, who are already richer than ever. They're selling this to the public with a false claim that the middle class will benefit from their tax cut plan. It's a gigantic Trojan horse. For most Americans, the proposed tax cuts are tiny and temporary. That's right, temporary. They'll shrink in just a few years. And some middle-class Americans will actually get a tax increase. Meanwhile, the top 1% will get a gigantic tax cut. The Tax Policy Center estimates that the current plan will save the bottom 80% between $50 and $450 in taxes per year, but that it saves each person in the top 1% an average of $129,000 a year. For people at the very top, like Trump himself, the tax cuts are humongous. And the corporations they own will also get a massive tax cut. Now, Republicans say economic growth will pay for the tax cuts, so there's no need to cut social programs like Medicare and Medicaid.
I'm here to say that the business tax cut side is going to pay for itself.
Growth in the future will help us pay for tax cuts.
But Republicans have just passed a budget that would cut nearly $1.5 trillion from Medicare and Medicaid to pay for these tax cuts. Pell Grants, housing assistance, and even cancer research are also on the chopping block. Now, they say we shouldn't take their budget resolution seriously. It was just a device to get the tax bill through the Senate with 51 votes. But once these tax cuts are passed, the budget deficit will explode. The Tax Policy Center predicts that it will cut federal revenue by $2.4 trillion over the next 10 years. When that happens, the only way out of the crisis will be something dramatic. Exactly the cuts in Medicare and Medicaid, and maybe even Social Security that Republicans have wanted for years. By this time, any talk of raising taxes on the rich will be dismissed. Using the promise of middle-class tax cuts as a Trojan horse for a tax windfall for the rich and deep spending cuts is a tactic dating back to the Reagan administration. But the version they're now aiming for is huge. We must see the strategy for what it is, and it must be stopped.